Hello everyone. Today we are going to start with the new chapter of business environment part, that is chapter number 6, entrepreneurship scenario. Okay. Under this chapter we are going to check out the different plans and policies of the government and government initiatives for the development of entrepreneurs in India. Okay. So let's start with the chapter. So it's an overview. This chapter covers the various government initiatives to foster entrepreneurship. See, entrepreneurs are businessmen who are going to start a business with a different creative ideas. So most important part of that particular industry is they need certain type of help, financial help, one particular platform. Okay, so the main intention of the government is to provide all the facilities which entrepreneurs are required. Because if government is not providing certain type of facilities, then obviously it is going to harm their business and ultimately it will create a negative impact on growth of India. Okay, so government is planning to give certain benefits to the different industries, different entrepreneurs. So the first government initiative is Make in India. Okay, and you have seen this symbol of Make in India. So it's one of the best government initiative for the development of the business in India. So let's just check it out in this particular criteria. Make in India was launched in the September 2014. After just the formation of the new government in 2014, when BJP was elected, at that particular time, BJP was elected in the month of May, around May 2014. And in September 2014, BJP came up with this particular Make in India initiative. The main intention is again, which is development of India, growth of Indian economy. Okay, so it was established in the year September 2014. It aims at transforming India into global manufacturing hub. Again, the intention is we are creating new scenarios for the business. And what we are doing what we are doing actually right now also, we are importing most of the products from different countries. And the most important country is China for we people, because we are importing Chinese product. Problem is, it is creating negative impact on the foreign exchange reserves of India. So government is planning to creating manufacturing hub in India only, so that we can stop import activities and which helps to reserve our foreign exchange, which is valuable for the country's development. Okay, so it aims at transforming India into global manufacturing hub, and intention is when we create goods in India, then after we will export this particular product to entire world. Third is under the FDI. FDI stands for Foreign Direct Investment. Limit is increased by the government to attracting foreign investment. Before this implementation, certain policies were framed by RBI along with the government of India, which states that in any particular industry, this much amount of foreign direct investment is allowed. Suppose I am taking example of railway. So in railway, 49% of foreign investment is allowed. In manufacturing of weapons, 24% investment is allowed. So now, after Make in India initiative, government started increasing the limit of foreign direct investment. In railway, it is increased up to 100%. So now in railway sector, 100% foreign direct investment is permissible. So all the limits are increased by government of India for the development of different sectors. Next, priority is given to following industries. Now there are list of the industries, and Make in India initiative is giving priority to all the sectors. Okay, let's check out which industries are more important under Make in India project. So first is automobile sector, second is the chemical industry, third is information technology, fourth is pharmaceutical, fifth aviation, Sixth, textile industry. Then seventh one is leather industry. Eighth, tourism. Ninth, hospitality industry. Then 10th, wellness. 11th is railway. 12th is infrastructure. Okay, so these are total 12 industries which are covered under Make in India project. It means priority is given to these particular 12 industries. Alright, next moving on to concept of Stand Up India. It is the logo of Stand Up India. Okay, now what is the main intention of this particular project? Why government started with the Stand Up India project? So let's just take it out. Aims at promoting entrepreneurship among ST or SC and women. See, government is planning to develop scheduled tribe and scheduled caste also. And for that they started a project which is named Stand Up India. So if you want to acquire facilities under Stand Up India, the first criteria is you must be from ST or SC and woman category. Okay, so if suppose I am from a scheduled caste, I want certain financial help to set up my business because I'm an entrepreneur. Okay, so in that particular situation, government will provide financial assistance to my business under Stand Up India scheme. Okay, then second is scheme is anchored by the Department of Financial Services, Ministry of Finance and the Government of India. It is kind of joint venture of this three you can say authorities. Like first is the Department of Financial Services, second is the Ministry of Finance, and third one is Government of India. So these three authorities came together and they started with the Stand Up India project. Next is eligibility for Stand Up India. So if you want to acquire loan facility, if you need any financial assistance under Stand Up India project, then what are the eligibility criterias? So let's check it out. Eligibility criterias. The first basic criteria is available only for ST or SC. So either you are from ST or SC and woman. Alright. Then second one is minimum age is 18 years. So if you want to acquire a loan under Stand Up India scheme, minimum age criteria is 18 years. Then third one is loan is available only for greenfield project. That's the most important criteria because you can say right now there are major issues related to climate change. Then you can see plastic wastages. So government stated that if you want to acquire any loan under Stand Up India, the first basic criteria, after that ST/SC, the another most important criteria is your business must be related to greenfield project. So if I am starting a business related to, you can say jute bags, okay, or I'm starting a business with organic food, okay, or organic chemicals which is not harmful for the vegetables, fruits and to the human also. So if I am dealing with such type of business activity, then I can acquire loan under Stand Up India project. Okay, so greenfield project is the most important criteria. Suppose if I am starting a business of plastic and I am going to the government and asking for certain loan under Stand Up India scheme, so obviously my business activity is not related to any greenfield project. So obviously government is not going to provide me any single rupee as a loan because it is not related to greenfield project. Okay. Then fourth criteria is greenfield must be related to manufacturing, service or trading sector. Under greenfield sector or greenfield project, you can do any activities, like you can do manufacturing activities also, you can do service industries also, and you can start a trading of business also, trading of goods and whatever. Okay, you can do these three types of business activity. You can conduct these three types of business activity under greenfield project. Then loan amount is rupees 10 lakhs to 1 crore. So if you want to acquire any loan under Stand Up India, then minimum amount government will grant is rupees 10 lakhs and the maximum amount is rupees 1 crore. So this is the criteria for loan amount. It's not like always you are going to the government, you ask for 1 crore rupees loan and government will hand over, take this money. It's not possible. They will find out, they will check different criteria also. Next point is no past default with the bank or financial institution. Suppose right now I am 31. Okay, my age is 31. I am starting a business. Suppose I am from ST criteria, or suppose my wife is from ST criteria, scheduled tribe. Okay, my wife is starting one business. She is 30 right now. Okay, if she is going for loan under Stand Up India, okay, then in that situation bank will check out your past record. Okay, like you took any loan or you are any defaulter, like this criteria they will check it out. And if you are a past defaulter with any bank, amount is not important. If you are defaulter for 1000 rupees also, defaulter means you are defaulter. Finish it off, you are not eligible to acquire any loan under Stand Up India scheme. Okay, so if there is any past default with any bank or financial institution other than bank, like NBFCs, non-banking financial companies, if you are a defaulter for either bank or financial institution or both, then in that situation you are not eligible to acquire any type of loan under Stand Up India scheme. Okay, forget it, you are not going to receive any single rupee under this scheme. Then in case of non-individual enterprise, 51% stake should be held by ST or SC and women. Suppose if I am starting a Stand Up India business in form of partnership, then 51% stake must be in the hands of ST or SC and women. Okay, so these are the main conditions and criterias or eligibility criterias which you have to fulfill before acquiring Stand Up India loan. So just check it out again, all the points related to this. First point is ST or SC and women. Loan amount is 10 lakhs to rupees 1 crore. Must be related to greenfield project. Then minimum age criteria is 18 years. Then no past default with any bank or financial institutions. Okay, so these are the important points for Stand Up India scheme. See, first government initiative, Make in India. Second government initiative, Stand Up India. Okay, next, other criteria, loan details for the Stand Up India available only for ST or SC and women. Then loan is available only for the greenfield project. Greenfield must related to manufacturing, service or a trading sector. Okay, third point is the most important point, that is the size of loan. So composite loan of 75% of the project cost inclusive of the term loan and working capital. The stipulation of the loan being expected to cover 75% of the project cost would not apply if the borrower's contribution along with the convergence support from any other scheme exceeds 25% of the project cost. It means if you are starting a business under Stand Up India scheme and you are going for a loan, then government will grant composite loan of 75% of your project cost. Suppose my project cost is 10 lakh rupees and 75% is 7.5 lakh rupees. This much amount can be granted by government to me under Stand Up India. Okay, if you are demanding 10 lakhs, then government is not going to grant 10 lakh rupees. Take this money and do the business. It's not possible. Even if I am financially fit, government is not going to provide me loan, because government is checking that if your requirement is your maximum size of the business is 10 lakh rupees, okay, then they will provide only 75% maximum amount. Okay, then another one of the important benefit under Stand Up India scheme is the rate of interest is very low. Suppose if I'm planning to start any business and I'm approaching one bank and I stated that I want a loan of rupees, suppose 10 lakh rupees. So what will be the rate of interest for me? Now if you are taking a personal loan, then it comes to around 12 to 13%. If suppose I'm going for a business loan, then it is around suppose 10 to 11%. Obviously this rate is very high. So if I'm taking a 10 lakh rupees loan, and if I'm calculating that suppose 10%, then per year I'm just paying interest of 1 lakh rupee. Obviously it is going to create a huge burden on me. So under Stand Up India, government stated that if you are acquiring loan under Stand Up India, then generally rate of interest will be in the range of 3 to 5% max, not more than that. Okay, so obviously it is going to give huge relief in form of interest. Suppose I am paying 12% interest and I am just paying 5% interest. Almost I am saving by half of the interest. So it is also one of the major advantage under Stand Up India scheme. Okay, next. Loan is repayable within the 7 years with a maximum moratorium period of 18 months. Now suppose if I am taking loan under Stand Up India scheme, then maximum duration of the loan is 7 years. Just like a home loan, you are not going to take loan for 20 years, 21 years, 25 years. That's not possible at all. Under Stand Up India scheme, the maximum duration will be 7 years. So you can take loan for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, or max 7 years, not more than 7 years. With a maximum moratorium period of 18 months. Now what is the meaning of moratorium period? Like see, just I'm giving you one example. In this corona situation, RBI stated that any borrower who acquired any loan from any bank will get relief of 3 months. And what kind of relief? For 3 months they are not eligible, they are not liable to pay any single installment for 3 months for March, April and May 2020. Because in corona situation there is a complete lockdown in India, so there is obviously less earning for that particular person. So how he is going to pay loan amount? Okay, so RBI granted relief. So this will get automatic extension of the loan, and you are not liable to pay now loan for 3 months, so that you can save this money and you can use that money for your basic survival. Same just like that. Here, if you are not able to pay your EMI on a particular time, then moratorium period, that relief can be granted for maximum 18 months. 18 months is actually long period, almost 1.5 year. So obviously 1.5 year is you can say huge period, and it is a huge benefit from the government side under Stand Up India scheme. Okay, next is a person can withdraw rupees 10 lakhs through overdraft facility. Also you can get OD facilities also. Then in case of non-individual enterprises, 51% stake should be held by ST or SC and women, that we already discussed. Okay, and the next is the scheme envisages 25% margin money which can be provided in convergence with eligible central state scheme, while such scheme can be drawn upon from availing admissible subsidies or meeting a margin money requirement. In all the cases, the borrower shall be required to bring minimum of the 10% of the project cost as own contribution. Suppose if you are taking a benefit of Stand Up India scheme, and also you are taking a benefit of some other schemes also, and you are acquiring loan from other schemes also, then suppose I am acquiring loan from Stand Up India, suppose I am acquiring loan from XYZ scheme of the government, then basically I am doing my business entirely on the funds of government. And suppose if your plans are not working properly, then you can say it will create a huge loss for government also, because you are using that money, and that's money of government actually. So in this particular scenario, What is the meaning of this particular statement is, if you are taking multiple benefits from the multiple schemes, then minimum contribution as a owner must be 10%. Okay, so if I'm investing, if I'm taking 10 lakh rupees for my business and I'm showing that this is the cost of my business, then 1 lakh contribution must be made by owner of that particular business. Okay, next is third scheme. First we discuss Make in India, then we discuss Stand Up India, and third one is Startup India. Okay, so this is Startup India. So let's check out these points. Aims at a generation of employment and wealth creation. So this Startup India is focusing on the wealth creation, earning creation, and employment, because unemployment is the major issue in India. Goal is the development and innovation of the products and services and increasing employment rate in India. Under this scheme, India is focusing on different innovations along with the improvement of employment. Then it was launched by PM Narendra Modi on 16th January 2016. Now check out benefits of Startup India. So financial benefits. So these types of benefits are provided by the government of India under Startup India scheme. First, they are going to provide a financial benefit, then income tax benefit, then registration benefits, then government tenders, huge networking opportunities. So they are going to provide generally 5 types of benefits under Startup India scheme. So first we are checking out financial benefits. So what kind of financial benefits are provided? So most of the startups are patent based. What is the meaning of patent? Patent means one type of innovation which you are creating for the first time in the world. That is known as a patent. Okay, if you are registering that particular innovation, then it is known as a patent. Okay, like just let me tell you one example. In Tamil Nadu, I'm not sure Tamil Nadu or Karnataka, but I think Tamil Nadu. 3 years back, one student of Tamil Nadu created world's smallest satellite, like this much size, and weight is 64 grams. It was tested by NASA, and NASA stated that it is 100% in working condition, and it is give proper results also. Okay, now that student got approval from NASA also, so he applied for the registration, that it is one type of innovation which I created for the first time in the world. After 2 to 3 years, he got approval, and now that device, that satellite is registered in the name of that particular person. Okay, so obviously it is a patent base. Now, what they are providing financial assistance under patent based, because we are just saying that it is related to patent, but there is no such kind of financial help till now. So what is the actual financial help? Let me tell you one thing. Point number 2 is, it means the producer provide a unique goods or services. Under the scheme, government provides 80% rebate on the patent cost. That's the most important financial benefit under patent. Suppose now registering of patent is actually costly process. On an average, you have to pay around 10 lakh rupees just for the registration of one patent, because it is one type of innovation, and after successful registration you will get a maximum privilege, you will get a monopoly also for that product and services. Okay, so what is the 80% rebate on the patent cost? What is the cost of registration of patent? On an average, suppose 10 lakh rupees. Now I am an innovator, I conducted that particular innovation, but 10 lakh rupees is a huge amount for me. Just like middle class people, it's actually expensive. What government is giving financial assistance here? Government will say 10 lakh rupees is the cost for registration of patent. You just pay 2 lakh rupees. 8 lakh rupees will be financial benefit to you, and no need to pay this money. It's a kind of discount. So obviously if I'm completing my entire process in just 2 lakh rupees instead of paying 10 lakh rupees. So it's a financial benefit for me. Yes, it's a huge financial benefit for me. Okay. Then government pay the fees of the facilitator to obtain the patent. Other benefit is an income tax benefit. So what is income tax benefit here? So government exempt 3 years income tax post incorporation year. I started my company under Startup India. From the date of incorporation, suppose I registered my company, I incorporated my company in the year 2020. So after year of incorporation from 2021, 22, 23, I will get tax benefit, tax exemption. What kind of tax exemption? So whatever I earn in these 3 years, I'm not liable to pay any single rupee tax. Okay, so that's obviously huge benefit for the, you can say, startups. So it's the first point. Second one is, it means they produce or provide unique goods or services, but they can avail this benefit only after getting a certificate from the interministerial board. If you want a tax benefit, if you want income tax benefit for the 3 years, then after registration you have to just write an application to the interministerial board and they will provide this benefit to you. Then third is, startup can claim exemption from the tax on capital gain if they invest money in specified funds. Suppose first year I earned 10 lakh rupees. Okay, so what I'm doing right now, I'm just making reserves of 8 lakh rupees and I invested that money in specified fund, government specified fund. Suppose government specified fund like bonds, debentures, gold bonds. Okay, I'm investing that 8 lakh rupees in government specified schemes or bonds, whatever you can say. Now obviously I will get certain amount of return on that investment, but the government is going to give income tax benefit in that also. So what type of benefit? Whatever dividend you are earning, whatever interest you are earning in that investment, from that investment, government will grant tax benefit and you are not liable to pay any income tax on your interest, on your dividend, anything. So it's 100% tax exemption. That is known as a capital gain. Okay. Then next is the registration benefit. So under this, single meeting is arranged to start up India hub. So fast process are introduced. Then there is a single doubt and problem solving window for them. Like government banks, if you are going for one problem, okay, go to this counter. If you are moving there, okay, go to this counter. This is not going to happen under this scheme. There is only a single window and they will give you entire solution for each and every problem. No need to move here and there. Then government tenders. Okay, under this, startup gets priority in getting the government tenders, and that is also without any experience, without any past experience. See, what is the meaning of this? Suppose I am conducting one particular business activity under Startup India. Now there is one government tender. Suppose government is stating that we are going to construct this particular activity or this particular project. Those who are interested can file government tenders. It is obvious that government will grant tender to well experienced company, well known companies with a huge financial backup. That's obvious. But under this scheme, if your business is registered under Startup India, then in government tenders, government will give priority to those business who are registered under Startup India. Okay, so that is again one of the best advantage government is giving. Then huge networking opportunities. See, to start a business, you can say actually it's not that much difficult, but to develop that particular business is actually difficult. Why? Because you need a huge networking system. You need a particular platform to project your product or services. You need a particular platform to communicate about your products or services. And if you don't have this networking system, then obviously you are not going to survive in this competitive world. So what government is providing facility here? Government will provide networking system. Government will conduct one meeting with all startup business, with all investors. So they will come together on a single platform and they will communicate with each other. So obviously it is going to create a huge networking system for startups. Okay. So government will arrange various meet with the stakeholders for the different opportunities. Government will conduct two startup fest annually. One is at a domestic level and one is at international level. And this scheme also provides an intellectual property awareness workshop. Government is going to conduct various workshops related to intellectual property, like how to register patent, how to register your trademark, everything. Next is registration of startups. So registration of startup can be done only from the following types of companies. So if you want to register your business under Startup India, form of business is either partnership firm or LLP or private company. You cannot register public company under Startup India. You cannot conduct or you cannot register sole proprietorship under Startup India. Form of business is allowed is partnership firm or LLP or private company. That's it, nothing else. Okay, so first we discuss Make in India, then we discuss Stand Up India, then we discuss Startup India. Next is Skill India. This is a symbol of Skill India. I think you have seen this photograph on government hoardings and everything. Okay, so this is the concept of Skill India. So it is started with National Skill Development Corporation. It is also known as, in short form, NSDC. Okay, so NSDC is a non-profit public limited company incorporated on 31st July 2008 under Section 8 of the Companies Act 2013. NSDC was set up by Ministry of Finance as a public-private partnership model. And Government of India through MSDE, that is Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, holds 49% of the share capital of NSDC, and the private sector has the balance 51% of the share capital. See, NSDC is one type of non-profit organization, and they are involved in development of the skills for different sectors. Okay, through different models like public-private partnership model. It means they are creating joint ventures, means government is creating joint ventures with the private organization like Kotak Mahindra Bank, ICICI Bank. Okay, so they are taking this type of initiatives under NSDC. NSDC aims to promote skill development by catalyzing creating of large quality and for profit vocational institutions. Schemes under NSDC, so Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Kendra, then International Skill Training and Technical Intern Training Program. So NSDC started with the three schemes. First is Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Kendra, then second is the International Skill Training, and the third one is the Technical Intern Training Program. So what is the first? That is Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Kendra, which is known as PMKK. So MSDE intends to establish visible and aspirational model training centers in every district of the country. Under this scheme, government started establishing different institutions in different districts for the development of skills. Then intention is to create a benchmark institution that demonstrate a value for competency based skill developing training. And the third one is focus on the elements of quality, sustainability and a connection with the stakeholder in skills delivery process. Main focus is given on the quality of the product, quality of the services. Okay. Then second one is international skill training. So under this, India holds the highest youth population as compared to China and Indonesia. India is known as a youngsters country because around 60% of the population of India is youngsters. Okay, so it focuses on the development of skills and talent of youth of India. See, youth are, you can say, unskilled person. They don't have any, you can say, experience. They don't have any proper knowledge of any particular activity at the initial stage of the life. So international skill in training is going to provide hardcore proper training to the youth for any particular industry. Suppose if I am planning to do business in like suppose production of one particular goods, then government is going to provide international skill training to me to develop my skills. Okay, so that is very helpful. Then third is a technical intern training program. So this program promotes international collaboration through transfer of skills, technology and knowledge among participating countries. It offers a training to the workers for a specific period, say for example 3 to 5 years in Japan's industrial society. In this particular scheme, government started, you can say, initiative. It's an initiative of the government, and they approach Japan's industrial society. And Japan obviously took a positive side, and Japan stated that we are going to help Indian youth. So best Indian youth, best group of Indian youth are moving to Japan for a technical training, okay, for 3 to 5 years. And after that, after completing that training, they are again going to come back in India, and they provide same technology assistance and same guidance to general youth of India on different levels. Okay, so obviously it is very helpful for growth of India, and Japan is also helping India in this situation. Main object is to ensure that the most competent youth is selected and sent to Japan to participate in TITP. TITP is Technical Intern Training Program. Next is Technical Intern Training Program established on October 2017. Now TITP, that is Technical Intern Training Program, but it is established by, first is Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, that is MSDE. Second is Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Health. Then Government of India and Ministry of Justice. And last is the Labor and Welfare of Japan. So basically TITP is started by 4 different authorities. First is MSDE. Second is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Health. Third is the Government of India and the Ministry of Justice, and fourth is the Labor and Welfare of Japan. Okay. Next is funding support. So funding support is actually divided into 2 parts. First part is the capital expenditure. Second part is the operation support. So in funding support, basically there are 2 parts. One is capital expenditure and one is operation support. So first one is a capital expenditure. So NSDC will provide a concessional secured loan funding per center up to 75% of the project investment to cover expenditure only related to training infrastructure, including purchase of plant machinery and equipment, training aid and other associated items, and the civil work including setting up prefabricated structures and retrofit existing structure. So what is the meaning of these points? What the government is planning to do after establishment of NSDC, they will start focusing on institutions development, and for that institution development, government will provide around 75% of the project investment cost. And after providing this money, 3 main intentions are covered up. First one is training infrastructure. Second one is the training aid, that is a help, one kind of assistance, and the civil work including setting up prefabricated structures and retrofit existing structure. It means to find out the mistakes in the existing structure and to come up with the new suggestions and new innovations for the development of the existing structure. So that is capital expenditure. And under operation support, first one is The sustainability of the centers will be assured against dedicated training numbers under Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana or its successor schemes. Then PMKK will be assured a training mandate for 3 years under PMKVY scheme as per common norms subject to capacity and the utilization of the center. So it's a kind of NSDC is going to assist different operations for the best implementation of all the government schemes. Next is skill development and entrepreneurship policy. So it was developed in the year 2019, involved in the designing of the various skill development plans and policies. And the primary objective of this policy was to meet the challenge of skilling at a scale with speed, standard and sustainability. It means government is trying to develop skills of each and every sector with proper speed, with proper standard and with proper sustainability. Proper speed means we have to maintain proper growth with the proper speed. Standard, in case of speed there is no need to sacrifice any quality also, there is no need to sacrifice any standard also. It means we have to maintain both the things, we have to maintain speed also and we have to maintain standards also. Just like if we are going to increase speed but there is no need to sacrifice in standard, we have to manage both the things at the same time. And sustainability means without creating any negative impact on environment and usage of the natural resources in the best possible manner without any wastages. Then pre-departure orientation training, it is known as a PDOT, and given the need to orient migrant workers with regards to language, culture, do's and don'ts in the destination country, the migrant immigration process and welfare measures. It means whenever any worker is planning to work in different countries, then government will provide PDOT training to all those workers. And training includes language training, culture of that particular country, then do's and don'ts, what you can do and what you cannot do in that country. Okay, along with the immigration process and welfare measures, they will provide each and every guidance so that whenever you are going to different country, you are already familiar with that situation. Okay, so PDOT training is focusing on migrant workers. So launched in collaboration with the Ministry of External Affairs and MSDE, and there are total 52 trainers till now. Next is investment in physical infrastructure. Government decided to give priority to development of roads and railways. See, you are very much aware about the current road situation of India and the current railway infrastructure, and it is actually now the need of development. Road conditions are worst in some areas and railway infrastructure is also not up to the mark. So government is planning to develop physical infrastructure of road and railways. So road development is most important because of transport, because we are using for that road for transportation purpose, and railway is also useful because you can say in Mumbai 30 to 40% public are traveling through railways. So it is actually most important criteria for development. Then 100% foreign direct investment was allowed by the government in railways, and certain rules are eased by government. So like I already stated before few minutes, that the government allowed foreign direct investment in railway for 100%. Then physical infrastructure investment is expected to surge to 10.4 GDP by financial year 2025 from 7.5% of GDP in 2015. Next, need for entrepreneurship in India. So what is the need of entrepreneurs in India? Obviously, like Government is focusing, be entrepreneur, but what is the actually need of entrepreneurs? Now see, there are two terms. One is entrepreneur and one is entrepreneurship. Both are totally different. They have different meanings. Entrepreneur means a person. We are talking about a person who is starting a business with his own creative idea. So that person is known as entrepreneur. Activity which he is using, which he is practicing for that product related or for a service related, then that activity, that is business activity, that process, that operation is known as entrepreneurship. Suppose I'm in teaching field and I started teaching with some new or creative ideas. So I am entrepreneur. Okay. And my activity, what is my activity? Teaching related activities. So my activity is known as entrepreneurship. Okay. So need for entrepreneurship in India. So what are the needs? Entrepreneurs are considered as a change agents in a process of growth and development of any country. Because the main fundamental principle of entrepreneur is they are starting a business with a creative idea. They're not just copying some business idea and implementing the same. They are involved in a different ideas, creative ideas, innovative ideas. Okay. So obviously, if you are doing any activity for the first time in the world with a different creative innovations, then it is going to create a huge impact on the market, and that is also a positive impact. Then entrepreneurs promote capital formation. They reduce the concentration of economic power. They promote equitable distribution of wealth and income. See, in India, rich is very much rich and poor is very much poor. But entrepreneur concept to change this scenario. Now any ordinary person with the help of government can implement his best creative idea, and he can also become a millionaire, billionaires in India. So they promote equitable distribution of wealth and income. So they helps to promote export of the country.